You read the title of this video or looked at the thumbnail and thought, this is it. Scott's finally cracked and lost it. This fat useless guy on the interwebs who tries to make mediocre videos is always trying to hype up the next big thing in WoW Classic and tell us that the bad things Blizzard put in originally are actually good. Well, you ain't convincing us this time, Tubby. Everyone knows Raid Finder was the worst thing that ever happened to World of Warcraft. But was it really? Just before we get into that though, if you're playing Classic fresh on the regular realms or even the hardcore realms and you're finding the leveling a bit of a slog, because quite honestly it is, then make sure you pick up a Rested XP guide. It's the fastest and safest way to level in hardcore and Classic in general. They were kind enough to give you all 15% off the guides as well. All you have to do is use the code Scottejaye Fresh at checkout. Links in the description and the pinned comment. Obviously, it's an affiliate link, so any guides you buy, I get a bit of kickback. So it goes towards supporting the channel, so thanks in advance for that. Anyway, firstly, let's think about why Raid Finder has never left. Lots of systems are added in one expansion and gone in the next. But Raid Finder was added back in Cataclysm when Dragon Soul blessed our computers for the first time and never left. If something was so terrible and hated by everyone in the community, why is it still in retail 13 years later? What people forget, myself being guilty of this as well, is the super hardcore players who go in places like Firelands and kill Ragnaros on heroics super quick are not the only people to exist within this game. In fact, those kind of players are actually the minority. The reason retail does so well and why I'm confident Mists of Pandaria Classic will do well as well is because of the amount of casual friendly content there is. In retail right now, you can get decent enough item level from purely solo content. This can be delves, this could be crafting, but then you throw in the ability to be able to go in Raid Finder as well for a shot at the raid gear that everybody else can get, but just at a reduced item level, and you can play the game every single day and kind of just do things when you want to do them rather than being tied down to a raid team that raids these specific times on these specific days. And the good thing is, with other systems that are in place, you can have a good time, you can get some decent gear to then be able to do some of the smaller group content in your own time, like Mythic Plus or just Heroic Dungeons or whatever version of the game you're playing, and kind of not feel ridiculously left behind. Now sure, when the Alpha, Beta and Gamma dungeons came in Wrath and even Inferno dungeons now, it does give the more casual players a way to really get decent gear, but you still can't get that raiding experience without joining groups, which you probably find yourself being turned away from because you don't have the item level, you don't have the achievement, or you just don't have the experience. This can be a massive put-off for these kinds of players, and eventually they'll just quit to go and play something else. Raid Finder's original purpose was to be there for those players, a way everyone gets to experience the content no matter the difficulty you strive for, a way to learn the mechanics in an approachable manner to possibly give you the confidence to dabble in some of the higher difficulties. The big complaint never came from the casual player base. It never even came from the semi-hardcore players, whatever semi-hardcore means. It came from the more elite, the hardcore raiders, the big dick swingers who clear all the hardest content but still feel forced to sit through multiple Raid Finder wings in their super powerful gear because actually a chance at completing your 4 set for tier 13 as an example as quickly as possible is far too tempting and obviously far too valuable. Even some of the trinkets in their lower item level from Raid Finder would be a DPS increase for somebody raiding Dragon Soul Heroic. In today's day and age though, how much of a problem will that realistically be? Top performing guilds or even just the semi-hardcore guilds just get through the content so much faster now. Even though you are, if you're really dedicated, you're still going to go and do Raid Finder no matter what your gear is just so you can complete your 4 set quicker. I'd say that period of time just won't last as long as it used to back in original Cataclysm. I'm not going to sit here and dress Raid Finder up to be some fantastic experience. For someone like me who does like to think that they can get through the hardest content in a fairly timely manner, it's grim. It's a pretty dire place because as soon as you hit a boss that needs even the smallest amount of organisation, it becomes a complete wipe fest. Blizzard cottoned onto this pretty quick, but unfortunately not quick enough, because it wasn't until Mists of Pandaria, around the time of Throne of Thunder, where they added a buff called Determination. Now, quite honestly, Determination should be in the game from the second Raid Finder hits Dragon Soul again this time around, which honestly, I think it will. What it basically does is gives the entire raid a 5% damage, health and healing received buff each time the raid wipes on a boss, and this affects stacks. It stacks a maximum of 10 times, which at that point, obviously it don't really matter what fight you're doing, it's most likely just going to fall over. And once it does fall over, if you've got more bosses to do in there, the buff resets back to 0 stacks. So if you was to have 5 or 6 wipes on a boss, you'd get that 30% of damage done, 30% more health and healing received, and you kill the boss and then it's gone for the next boss. So it's normally the last bosses in most of these places that have got the most difficult mechanics, obviously. So it's more than likely in those places where you're going to see this buff actually stack up. But I think if they add Raid Finder to Dragon Soul, this should be added as well. Now, the thing for me personally is I like more content. If I'm bored on a character that's stacked with gear, I'll go in Raid Finder just as a way to get more valor, flex on people on the meters just for fun. I don't see the addition of extra content ever being a bad thing, especially when the people it's aimed at are not the people that will complain about its existence. I know many people who play Cataclysm but rarely ever raid because they don't like committing to specific days and times due to their own real-life commitments. They don't like pugging because they worry about their lack of experience will end up being a hindrance, but jumping in Raid Finder, every person in there is a hindrance. That's a joke, obviously. I'm sure you're all going to do great. There's just no different way I can look at it other than seeing it as a positive addition to a version of the game that really lacks at the moment for things to do for the more casual player base. Will I feel forced to do it and get my tier 13 set bonus quicker? Yes, of course I will. Will I cry about it every second that I'm in Raid Finder? Absolutely every single time. I'll be complaining all the way through. But it doesn't mean it shouldn't exist. I just shouldn't see it as something I have to do. The content is not put there for me. The need for Raid Finder becomes even more valuable in Mists of Pandaria Classic when we get there because you need raid drops for your legendary cloak quest throughout the entire expansion. So every single person, no matter whether you're casual or super hardcore, will want to be getting through the raids each week. So the fact that super casual players can progress through the expansion long quest line as well is a very positive thing. What are your thoughts on Raid Finder? If you say in the comments to keep Raid Finder out of the game, at least back it up with a bit of substance. Why shouldn't it be there? Be actually objective. What is the downside to Raid Finder and what are the positives to Raid Finder? Because as I say, the casual player base make up a large part of the player base and having them around and giving them something to do is only positive for the servers. And for me personally, that's all I want. I want everybody to have a good time in Cataclysm and then into Mists of Pandaria, no matter whether you're casual or you're super hardcore. So let's not listen to all of the super elite players that will just say Raid Finder's a bad idea. Look at it objectively and make your own mind up. If you enjoyed the video, as always, be sure to like and subscribe. And remember, Scottejaye fresh on Rested XP to get 15% off. You can even get yourself a Cataclysm guide if you're wanting a level and alt. But, you know, most people are probably picking it up for Classic Fresh at the moment. But anyway, I'll see you on the next one.